truth. No one tells you the truth. Not because everyone wants to lie, but because everyone is hiding something. It could be fear, the need for approval, the desire for gain, or simply habit. And that's why philosophers who truly wanted to understand man never asked, "What do you think?" but "What do you do when I'm not looking?" They didn't listen to declarations. They observed muscle tension, avoidance of eye contact, forgotten gestures. Because the truth, the most raw and naked truth, always finds its way through the smallest cracked moment. Tactic 1. See how they treat those who don't matter. Don't watch how someone talks to you. Watch how they talk to someone who gives them nothing. To the cashier, to the elderly person asking for directions, to the unknown child who interrupted them. There's no calculation there, no benefit, only instinctive reaction. And instinct says more than words. If someone becomes patient only when you're watching, that's not patience, it's acting. If someone is kind only to the influential, that's not courtesy, it's strategy. If someone ignores the small ones, their soul is being measured by them. Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. Don't check how they treat you when you're needed. Check how they treat you when you stop being useful. Tactic 2. Let silence break them. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a mirror. Most people talk because they can't stand the echo of their own thoughts. Only those who are not afraid of their shadows fall silent. Enter the conversation and don't fill it with noise. Don't nod, don't judge, don't comment. Just be. Observe. You'll see how the other person starts to wind up. First to avoid awkwardness, then to gain your attention, and then to not hear themselves. Silence strips away masks. It changes the rhythm. It introduces discomfort, and the one who doesn't know how to behave when there's no script shows their true face, not because they want to, but because they have to. Tactic 3. Take away what they desire. You don't need to take everything away from people. Just take away one small thing they took for granted. Don't respond right away. Don't compliment like usual. Don't smile automatically, and watch what happens. Those who took your gestures as entitled will feel offended. Those who counted on your attention will start to demand it. And those who never listened to you will suddenly pull away, because what they needed has disappeared. It's a test. Not brutal, not dramatic, just a lack of stimulus. And then you see who was with you, and who was only with what you represent. In relationships, more important than what you give is what remains when you stop giving. Tactic 3. Destroy their predictability. Every person has their own theater, a script, a style, an emotional repertoire. And the worst part is that many of us no longer act, we just live our role. The nice person, the empathetic person, the strong woman, the funny man. All of these can be a program, an automatic sequence of behaviors that works. That doesn't mean they are fake, but it does mean they are predictable. And predictability is the enemy of truth. Do something they don't expect. Don't laugh when they expect laughter. Be silent when they want a reaction. Say "I don't know" when they expect certainty. You'll see surprise, irritation, sometimes aggression, because improvisation reveals what can't be scripted. Tactic 5. Say no, small but firm. Refuse something small, not a big favor, something simple, and watch what happens. Do they accept it with a smile? Does a shadow of coldness appear, or do they slowly start to withdraw, as if you stopped being who they were interested in? It's not about being opposed to everything. It's about testing the boundaries of the other person. Not everyone who smiles at you accepts your freedom. Not everyone who gives can accept no. A small refusal is like a microscope. It reveals reactions that would never surface under normal conditions. You don't need special abilities to see people. You only need one thing: the ability to observe without illusions. Don't react. Don't fill the silence with fear. Because when you stop being a participant in the theater, you become its director, and then you really know who is acting and who is being. Tactic 6. Observe how they treat those they don't have to respect. If you want to know a person's true character, don't look at how they treat you. Look at how they treat the waiter, the janitor, the cashier. someone who has no impact on their status. You see, many people can pretend to be polite when they want something from you, but their true nature is revealed where there's no need to wear a mask. A person who despises the weaker but flatters the stronger is neither strong nor loyal. They are an opportunist. They operate according to a grid of interests, not values. They have a hierarchy of power etched into their skin and will only be loyal to those above them. Until you stop being above, then they become distant, cold, sometimes even hostile. Machiavelli wrote that most people act more out of fear than out of loyalty. Such loyalty lasts only as long as you command respect. That's why you should watch how someone treats others before they smile at you. Let their actions toward those they consider insignificant become your mirror of their true self. Sometimes one sentence thrown at the waiter says more about a person than 1,000 words directed at you. Tactic 5. Be silent when everyone is talking. Speak when everyone is silent. People can't stand silence. In silence, their demons, insecurities and true thoughts emerge. That's why they talk a lot, without a filter. And the longer you listen without interrupting, the more they'll say, unaware that they're exposing themselves. In a world that rewards extroverts, loud leaders and outward confidence, silence becomes a weapon. When you remain silent, you give the other person space in which they must fill the void. And in that void, their need for domination, attention or validation often reveals itself. Machiavelli didn't trust people who talk too much. Words are both a weapon and a leak of information, intentions, masks. If you want to understand someone, learn not to say anything when everyone else is saying everything. Let your silence unsettle them. Let it provoke, because people start to justify themselves, not when you ask them, but when you remain silent for too long. And when you finally speak, let your words weigh more than all their babble combined, because the one who speaks little but hits the mark earns respect. Silence as a tool of power. But that's not all. Silence is not just a way to understand others, it's also a way to control yourself. Only the person who controls their tongue controls themselves, because people reveal themselves in anger, in the need for revenge, in the desire to prove something to the world. Too many people speak because they want to win the argument, and too few realize that silence often wins the war. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He knew that power doesn't need noise, it needs presence, calm, the ability to wait for the moment when others burn out. Tactic 6. Give them a choice, but one you've already set. This is one of the most subtle tactics. People believe they have free will, that they choose according to their own rules. But Machiavelli knew freedom is often an illusion created by those who understand the mechanics of choice. If you really want to know someone, give them a choice between what's good and what's easy, between courage and comfort, between loyalty and benefit, and watch which path they choose when they don't know they are being observed. Because a person's character is revealed not in what they say, but in what they choose when they think no one is watching. In politics, in love, in friendship, you can always set the table so that the decision speaks louder than 1,000 declarations. And then you don't need to ask, who are you? The answer will come by itself, in their gesture, in their choice, in their decision. A mirror without illusions. All of these tactics have one goal: to see the world without illusions, because illusions are comfortable, but costly. They make us trust those who should be observed. They make us love those who manipulate us. They make us choose those who are only playing a role. Machiavelli wasn't a cynic, he was a realist. He understood that if you want to live wisely, you need to see clearly, and to see clearly, you must look deeper, listen to the silence, observe the unassuming, because where words end, truth begins. But here's the paradox we don't want to accept. Most of the people around you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, have never shown you who they really are, not because they are bad, but because they live behind the bulletproof glass of their own fears, desires, and survival strategies. And it is precisely here that the fourth tactic comes into play. 4. See how they react to your freedom. If you really want to know a person, become free. Not just free from financial dependence or the opinions of others. Become mentally free. Don't worry about what's expected. Stop justifying your own choices. Do things your way. And then, observe. Who supports you? Who becomes silent? who starts criticizing you under the guise of concern. Because this is not about you. It's about how your freedom exposes their enslavement. Your courage provokes their passivity. Your decisions highlight their stagnation. As Dostoevsky wrote in The Brothers Karamazov, nothing is more unbearable for a man than the freedom of his neighbor. Your freedom becomes a mirror for others, and not everyone likes to see their reflection. Over time, you will realize that what truly reveals people is not conflict situations, but the moments in which you show them that you don't need their approval. Those who truly respect you will accept your independence without trying to control it. Those who were only pretending will start sabotaging you. This is the fourth test. Don't seek the truth in their words. Look for it in their attitude toward your freedom. And now we come to the last, fifth and perhaps most subtle tactic. Withdraw and disappear. Just for a moment. This is an age-old technique. Withdraw from the relationship. Be silent. Stop asking questions. Stop initiating contact. See who looks for you and who remains silent. Because silence is not just the absence of words. Silence is a mirror that reflects the true value you have for the other person. Someone who only cared about you when they had something to gain will disappear as quickly as you distanced yourself. Someone who wore a mask of sympathy will stop pretending when you're no longer available. This is a brutal but beautiful test. It doesn't require confrontation. You don't need to say anything. Just disappear and let silence speak. People are not evil by nature, but they are complicated. They wear masks, not because they want to deceive you, but because they are afraid to be seen for who they truly are. Therefore, Machiavelli's philosophy, although often interpreted as cold and ruthless, can also be a tool for deep insight, not to manipulate, but to see, truly see, because only when you know who is really standing in front of you, can you decide whether to trust, help, love, or rather step back, without drama, without a fight, just with quiet understanding. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone should know your soul, but everyone sooner or later will show you who they are. All you have to do is stop talking, start listening, and let the world reveal itself. But what happens when people realize that their actions are not only being recorded by us, but also interpreted, that we are not just watching, but understanding? They start to fear, because the one who sees the truth gains power. And in a world where most people live in comfortable lies, truth becomes a threat. That's why wisdom often ends in loneliness, not because a person can't love, but because they cease to be useful for others' illusions. Anyone who can see through masks will no longer be welcomed in the company of those who don't want to remove theirs. But true freedom begins when we no longer seek sympathy, only clarity, when we no longer ask, do they like me, but rather, do I truly see them? In this sense, we become philosophers. Not be studying books, but be seeing the world as it is, without embellishments. And that means something else too. Not every truth needs to be spoken, because silence is also a philosopher's tool. Sometimes we remain silent not out of cowardice but out of wisdom, because we know that not every truth will be received by an unprepared ear. Silence becomes a form of respect, not for the lie but for the process, for the slow ripening that must happen in the other person before they are ready to hear what we already know. And perhaps that's why philosophers often remain silent when others shout, because they understand that noise is temporary but meaning is eternal. Because those who truly see no longer need to prove anything. Ask yourself, how many times have you told the truth and been punished for it? How many times have you seen the intention behind a smile and been called paranoid? How many times were you just yourself and that's what triggered fear in others? It wasn't you who was the problem. The problem was that your authenticity illuminated their fake identity. That's why philosophy is not an academic field. It's an attitude. It's a choice not to pretend, to look and not look away, even when you see something that hurts. Because what hurts, liberate. And in this freedom, there is no guarantee of happiness. But there is something more precious, responsibility, for yourself, for your own thoughts, for your own actions. No excuses, no shifting the blame, no games. That's why the philosophical life is not easy, but it is real. And truth, though costly, always pays off in the end. Not in the eyes of the crowd, not in fame, but in the inner peace that cannot be bought. And that's why so many people choose comfort over truth. But those who choose truth even if they must walk alone, carry something that will last longer than applause. They carry light. But there's more. Tactic 6. Observe their reaction to another's success. This is the moment when true nature emerges from the shadow, because it's easy to be nice when someone is weaker. It's easy to be supportive when there is no threat. But the success of another person acts like a solvent for illusion. When someone in your environment suddenly begins to succeed, professionally, financially, personally, don't just look at what they say. Pay attention to their micro-expressions, the subtle drops in tone, the delayed congratulation. These are traces of jealousy, a sense of competition, frustration that cannot be fully trained away. A person who truly supports you will feel proud of your development, but the one who has stayed close only because you were conveniently lower will reveal their resentment. This is not evil, it's nature, but nature that cannot be ignored if you want to survive. Tactic 7. Introduce uncertainty and check if they are looking for your weakness. Few can stay with you when you are not confident. When you deliberately begin to show slight hesitation, I don't know if I can do this. I wonder if this was a mistake, not to get support, but to observe. People with pure intentions will offer compassion, advice, understand, but those who are just waiting for the moment to elevate themselves will exploit weaknesses. They will start interrupting you, instructing you, treating you from above. They will feel superior because you, for a moment, pretended to be inferior. Machiavelli wrote that people are loyal not to the person, but to the power that person emanates. Take away that power, even for a moment, and you'll see who really stayed. Tactic 8. Watch how they treat those who give them nothing. Power reveals, but helplessness tests the conscience. How someone treats the waiter, the cleaner, someone without social significance, that is a pure form of character. There are no benefits, no deals, no poses, just a pure reflection of the soul. If someone can be brutal, indifferent, or contemptuous toward those they consider insignificant, that is not an exception. That is their true self, what they will do to you when you're weak one day. Machiavelli said, "Do not judge a person by how they treat their equals, but by how they treat the defenseless." Tactic 9. Observe how they react to silence. People fear silence because it exposes them. In silence, they cannot pretend, they cannot manipulate with words. Propose a conversation where you allow the silence to stretch longer than usual. In silence, you can see who feels secure with themselves and who has to talk constantly to prevent their fears from speaking up. People who cannot stand silence often have something to hide, either from you or from themselves. Tactic 10. Give them power, symbolic, temporary, and watch. You don't need to give anyone an army to uncover their tyranny. Just give them something small, the ability to decide something trivial, a priority that they can use or give away, a piece of information they can keep or use against you. Power, even the smallest, is like a magnifying glass. It reveals the scale of the ego, the need for dominance, the urge to control. Those who are truly strong rarely need to use it, because they know they have it within themselves. Those who feel small inside seize every opportunity to hide it through domination. Machiavelli was cynical, but not foolish. He understood one thing: the world is not evil, it is simply unaware. And what we've called tactics are nothing more than tools of awareness. Not to judge, but to not fall asleep with illusions. Because if you want to live deeply, truly, freely, you must know who you're dancing with in this world full of masks. Not for manipulation, for protection, for wisdom, for a life that is not a coincidence, but a conscious choice.